Greetings to my esteemed Murray State University Racer faculty. First, many thanks to those of you watching this video. Your to-do list right now, given that it's finals week, so you're trying to probably prepare that final exam. You might be grading some projects. Perhaps you're planning for maybe a meeting this week. There are family obligations, research and writing tasks, service work. Wow, the list goes on. And yet you took the time to watch this video. Thank you, and I appreciate that. Second, I want to thank my colleague, Dr. Ben Littlepage, for also stepping up to seek the faculty regent seat. He and I were fellow adjunct faculty members in the Human Development and Leadership Program in the College of Education and Human Services in 2012 and 2013. So I know he also is an excellent candidate. It's good to have choices, and you now have two good quality individuals to consider. So I want to start with a learning activity. I am, of course, an educator, and a lot of times when I start classes or any other sessions or workshops, I like to start with something. Those of us in education might recognize this as a bell ringer. So that's kind of what I'm going to do right now. So the first memory that comes to your mind when you were asked what you wanted to be when you grow up. And if you can't think that far back, or you're thinking, I just don't have anything good, then perhaps when you were a high school student or a college student, you might have been really thinking more about your career at that time. So I'm going to give a little countdown from 5, and you better have something in your mind to capture. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do you have a memory? So if you do, great. Now, can you honestly say that you are where you thought you would be from that moment? And if you just want to kind of just raise your hand, you can. Of course, I won't be able to see it, but I'm going to put my hand right about here. I'm not too quick to raise it all the way up because I can't really say that definitively in answering that question. But it is going to be explored in my journey. You know, our journeys to what I consider to be the best profession, to be university faculty, it really is, to me, the best vocation. It's a calling. And our journeys are made of different paths that are plotted by various moments and nuggets of time that make us the experts in our fields and our disciplines. So for the next several minutes, you will travel with me on my journey. And so that way you can understand what makes me Melony and why I should continue service as your faculty regent. Since my childhood years, I have been inquisitive, frequently asking questions. Nosy, in fact. I never knew manners when it came to snooping, and truthfully, I still don't. I guess that's why journalism was a natural fit for me. And really, you have been the beneficiaries of it all. And I'll circle back to this in a few minutes. My history with Murray State University starts with the nursing program. And you're thinking, now, Melony, you teach in the journalism and mass communications department. What are you talking about with nursing? Yeah, it actually starts with a nursing program, which at one time had a young woman by the name of Alice Walden enrolled. Alice, for whom my middle name comes, she was my grandmother and was a nursing student at the former Murray State College when my mother, her daughter, was about 10 years old. My grandmother was divorced at the time. So that she could attend Murray State for her classes during the week, she boarded the bus from Hopkinsville each Sunday afternoon and then would return to Hopkinsville on Friday to be with her daughter. Although my mother loved staying on the farm with her grandmother, whom she called Mama, even throughout all of her years, she actually disliked her mother's travel arrangements. I remember that story very well that my mother would tell. And I think a lot of the reasons why she saw Murray State as this bad place, as you can imagine a child in such a situation would. So I'm going to fast forward time a little bit to my mother's sister, Jenny, whom you see in a lot of these photos. So in the gold or the yellow circles, that's Jenny. So my mother and Jenny were about 20 years apart. Okay. Jenny and I were really 2 years apart. So Jenny to me was more of my sister. I saw her often, and she was always the one I would consult with on anything dealing with school, anything like that. Now, she spent 4 years at Murray State University from 1987 until her graduation in 1991. Jenny was a double major in social work as well as French, and she also was an RA at Hester Hall, as well as being involved in many other organizations that you can see in some of these photos. I remember spending a weekend with her on campus. It was my senior year in high school, and I had a pretty big decision to make. Where to go to college, Murray State University or Western Kentucky University. And I had applications elsewhere, but those were my two big choices at that time. During my spring break, I arrived early on a Friday, just in time to attend two classes with her, a sociology course and the other, a mathematics course. And both of those classes were in Faculty Hall. So Faculty Hall has left a big impression on me. And I didn't know then how part of that name would become a part of my destiny. Well, we all know the end of this college selection story. I choose WKU because of its journalism program, considered by my peers then, and it's still to this day by many in the industry, to be the mecca of journalism in this country. Although I like to think that with my colleagues and I, now in the JMC department, we are the dynamite team guiding our students to become communication and media pros. As a journalist, I specialized in education news reporting. This is me. When I worked for the Kentucky New Era, gosh, going back more than 20 years, and I was asked to speak to a class. Well, my newspaper editors learned about my speaking and asked for a photographer to tag along with me because they were building an advertising promotion campaign. So there I am. I was featured in an advertising promotion for the newspaper. So I specialized in education reporting, and that included, at the time, attending school board meetings, spending time in the classrooms, even to learn how teachers navigated difficult topics or even practiced new pedagogical methods. And also I investigated issues in the schools by combing through financial reports and other public documents, to the point that sometimes I was stalked, received threats, sometimes was told how much of a nuisance I was because of all the open records requests and all the open meeting violations that I filed. Some superintendents did not like me, and we had good working relationships, but a lot of them really did not like me. The school board attorneys really despised me because I made their job a little bit more difficult with all the filings. But, for me as a journalist, that was a badge of honor because I was doing nothing more than performing public service. I also was a business journalist skilled in reading financials, and I covered the cops and courts beat, staying on top of all the legal matters, particularly those that might have been filed in the civil division of circuit court and that dealt with education. So remember when I asked you earlier if you could claim that you are where you thought you would be? Deep down for me, I think I knew my calling at some point was going to be in education. 1 year after my mother died, I enrolled in the graduate program at Murray State in 2001. Taking 1 or 2 courses each semester, I graduated with a master's in mass communication in 2004, earning the Outstanding Graduate Student Award. Retired professor Dr. Ann Landini even remembered a comment that I made that evening at the awards banquet, how I would like to return here to teach someday. And in fact, when she learned of a position that was getting ready to be posted, she messaged me via Facebook Messenger several years ago and let me know that the application period soon would begin. Immediately after my first master's degree from Murray State, I went to work almost immediately on another master's degree, this one in management at Austin Peay State University in Clarksville, Tennessee. After spending several years in journalism, I also decided to cross over to what we kind of call the dark side, public relations, in higher education, also at Austin Peay, where my PR efforts focused on the university's recruitment, retention, graduation, and development efforts, both internal and external communication. To give you an idea of my contributions, here are some in which I really remain proud to this day, and I often talk about these to my students in my PR classes, as well as somewhat in journalism too. Some of these had some journalism components as well. I worked with the Tennessee Higher Education Commission to conceptualize a communication plan for a new statewide, it was new at the time, but a new statewide prior learning assessment program, Begin Again Tennessee. My primary responsibility was message development that could be seen in various promotions and other tactics throughout the state of Tennessee. I identified key messages and communication tactics to meet objectives in what was called at the time the Scoring New Beginnings Capital Fundraising Campaign for APSU's renovated football stadium. I also collaborated with APSU's Advancement Office to customize material to target new donors. I executed a marketing campaign to promote graduate education at APSU. I also organized the annual communication plan for the P-Read, which was APSU's Common Reading Initiative for first-year students. And I really wish we had something like that at Murray State. So at APSU, I was a professional staff member, and I even served as president of the Staff Senate, and I was also a part of the cabinet of then University President Tim Hall. I also was an adjunct faculty member at APSU in the College of Business, where I taught principles of marketing, and I was also an adjunct in the College of Arts and Letters, teaching copy editing, feature writing, and any other courses that they needed me to teach for the Department of Communication. While at APSU, I began doctoral work at Tennessee State University in Nashville. It's me right there getting ready to walk the stage and to be called a doctor, where I completed all the critical coursework for the Doctor of Education in Administration and Supervision in Higher Education. Some of those courses included Economics and Finance of Higher Ed, Public Policy, Leadership, Multiculturalism, Legal Matters, all the research and stats courses that you can imagine to complete the dissertation, which of course was about my qualitative insights into whether the journalism curriculum in Tennessee's colleges and universities provided sufficient instruction to the state's rapidly changing sunshine laws, which it did not. This project was one of my shining moments, but perhaps my pride and joy was working for a year under some directed study, and I really enjoyed this, but I designed a marketing and higher education course that remains on the books to this day. Not long after earning my Doctor of Education, I responded to a call for adjunct faculty in the Human Development and Leadership graduate program at Murray State. I taught legal and ethical issues in human services in fall 2012 at the Fort Campbell campus. And then in spring 2013, there were two courses that I taught: multicultural issues in human services at the Madisonville campus and the group processes and team development at Fort Campbell. And that course I really enjoyed. I had a good group of graduate students. They were fun, and we really did some great work in that class. Therefore, the College of Education and Human Services was my first academic home at Murray State, and always will have a special place in my heart. Teaching these courses in the College of Education and Human Services was my beginning to Murray State University faculty. Every day that I am on this campus, I always think of my family, especially my Aunt Jenny. She died of pancreatic cancer in December 2013. And knowing that I am walking the same mall plaza and the sidewalks that she did, and entering the same buildings that she did for classes, I know my family members are proud of whom I have become today, a faculty member who not only cares for her students, but her faculty colleagues too. All my professional experiences in journalism and public relations careers that focused on education and that were formulated by my rich graduate education at the master's and doctoral levels have brought me to Murray State University, where I believe now faculty affairs in all of its context is now my passion. My admiration for my faculty colleagues across campus and the wonderful working relationships that I have with faculty are what drive me and my efforts in this area. My longtime work, which still continues with the Faculty Development Center, in which I served as interim director for a short period of time, my prior service with the Faculty Senate, in which I served as vice president, and my current service with the Kentucky Faculty Advisory Network through the Council on Post-Secondary Education, in which we serve as a hub to advise CPE President Aaron Thompson on various matters that really affect faculty. And there's also a host of other related associations, including Faculty Regent. that have played a robust part of my vocation in faculty affairs. Since becoming your faculty regent on July 1st, 2019, I have strived to serve and represent you the best way I knew how, while still fulfilling my fiduciary responsibility to this university and to be accountable to you, explaining my decisions based on the evidence and information given and found. Transparency, a basic principle in any shared governance model. You look up the research on shared governance, and transparency is one of those pillars. It might even be referred to as openness, but that has been my number one goal. I have represented the faculty voice at all Board of Regents meetings, both regular and special meetings, and I believe that's important to emphasize. I've had to turn down conference acceptances or any other opportunities because my number one mission was to make sure I am at that board meeting to represent you. I informed you twice a month with email digest at the beginning and usually at mid-month, and then some other emails as well. And then there are some with copious reports after board meetings. I have conducted open forums with faculty prior to board meetings. I make myself available to faculty to discuss their concerns or simply to listen. Sometimes I am able to help them by presenting recommendations to the provost or even to the president. And then there are times I might not be able to help, but I am there to listen. I also made sure to respond to every faculty member's question by phone or email, giving these the same immediate care and attention that I would for my students. Because I felt faculty were not celebrated and appreciated enough, I worked to promote faculty accomplishments by creating the Racer Faculty Success social media report, which you not only see, but the administration sees. The other regents also see it, and they comment about how wonderful it is to see what the faculty are doing with their research, with their teaching. They are proud of us faculty. But the public also sees those reports as well. My efforts to be transparent with and celebratory for faculty will continue if reelected. So that brings me to a question you likely are thinking. What would Melony do in a second 3-year term? COVID-19 struck our state and our university in late March 2020. As you know, it was a nightmare and you've lived through it. And the consequences stirred problems, some beyond our control. But the consequences also opened our eyes to opportunities. Some takeaways surfaced, and I plan to generate those conversations and advocacy for these as part of my focus on what I have termed as human asset preservation. First, we recognized that work flexibility and remote arrangements could happen. Perhaps not every position could warrant work flexibility or remote arrangements, but we must be aggressive in our study of this matter. And I credit the Insurance and Benefits Committee because they are re-examining an existing policy. But we also need to examine that policy in the context of where we are today. And I want to continue weaving this opportunity into appropriate discussions that would lead to serious administrative consideration and hopefully a greater policy. This leads into my second concern that has surfaced from the pandemic, and that's dependent care. Whether it's childcare or adult care, some of us have aging parents coming up, or perhaps any other aging family members, or maybe not even aging. Maybe you have family members who need some attention. This is a high order issue, and that deserves constant attention as well. Third, and it's one that continues to be a focus of mine, that's the cost of living salary adjustments, COLA. And those must be on par with economic indicators such as inflation. And I also applaud the Faculty Senate and Staff Congress for working diligently to study and also advocate for consistent pay increases in response to economic consumer hikes. Here are a few others that I also would be proactive in seeking improvement. That just includes what I just call various processes. And to give you an example, of course, with the budget right now, the proposed budget, it does include what has been termed as just a reduction of FTE of 2. However, those lines went somewhere else or were absorbed in other ways. And some of it were for other academic enhancements. And that's great. I want all of our programs to grow. But at what cost are some of these enhancements going to be to other programs? And that's a conversation worth having. These items I just discussed are big problems, but big problems don't get resolved in a short time frame. Therefore, I want to continue serving you, advocating on your behalf and informing you, being your voice to keep these items as important points of any conversation. I am just one of 11 voices on the board, but I have been your strong faculty voice. As your regent, I have served each year of my term on 3 regent committees: academic excellence and scholarly activities, of which I have chaired every year during my term, enrollment management and student success, and third, marketing and community engagement. In fact, I'm hoping you're able to see how all of my experiences in public relations and marketing have really helped me to be an integral part of these committees. And then in my 3rd year, the finance committee was added to my board committee duties. This appointment aligns well with my ability to follow financial reports effectively, consider innovative ideas with the board and the administrators, and to explain cumbersome concepts with you as well as others. I want to tell the faculty story. And as a journalist and public relations professional in higher education, I am the candidate to continue to do that and empower our faculty voice even more loudly and proudly. Bottom line, for Murray State to invest in students, it must invest in human asset preservation for the faculty and for the staff. I want to leave you with this quotation that comes from our first president of Murray State University, Dr. John W. Carr. It comes from an address that he delivered to the Board of Regents as well as to others on April 1st, 1926. Quote, "The work of this institution has only begun. I want to see this faculty continue to develop in not only teaching ability, but heart power, the ability to lead and inspire." Unquote. That sentiment almost 100 years ago is the same that I have in my mission for you and for myself today. Please vote for me to continue being your servant on the Murray State University Board of Regents. You can record your vote in MyGate. You go to the homepage and then just scroll down a little bit until you see elections and assessments, and you will see that election. And you can vote on May 9th or on May 10th. Thank you so much, faculty, for all that you do at Murray State University.